Iran just sank a U.S. destroyer escort in Red Sea. First American warship lost. Since 1988, March 22nd, 2026, 0347 hours local time, the USS Samuel B. Roberts, an Oliver Hazard Perry-class frigate operating in the Red Sea, transmitted a distress signal reporting multiple incoming contacts. 14 seconds later, the transmission cut off. Satellite imagery confirmed at 0402 hours that the Samuel B. Roberts was no longer transmitting its identification beacon. By 0530 hours, debris field and oil slick confirmed what the Pentagon would spend the next 18 hours refusing to acknowledge publicly. An American warship had been sunk in combat for the first time in 38 years. Not damaged, not mission killed. Sunk. Hull breached below the waterline in multiple locations. Progressive flooding, overwhelming damage control teams, catastrophic list leading to capsizing within 27 minutes of initial impact. 43 sailors lost, 89 rescued by nearby vessels, and a strategic reality that no amount of careful Pentagon phrasing can obscure. The United States Navy just lost a warship to a country that doesn't have a navy. Let me explain exactly what happened in those 27 minutes. Because the technical details reveal why this wasn't a lucky shot, wasn't a one-off incident, and most critically, why it's going to happen again. The weapon that killed the Samuel B. Roberts is designated the Abu Mahdi cruise missile. Range of 1,000 kilometers. Sea-skimming flight profile. Terminal velocity Mach 0.85. Warhead weight 450 kilograms. Unit cost approximately $1.2 million. Iran has been producing these missiles since 2019 at a rate of roughly 200 units per year. The missile uses terrain-following guidance during overland flight and switches to active radar homing for terminal phase. The missile doesn't need external guidance once launched. It finds the target itself. And that autonomous capability is what makes it so dangerous. No communications link to jam, no data stream to intercept, no command center to strike. Once it launches, the missile is committed to the hunt. 0347 hours. The Samuel B. Roberts was operating 240 kilometers southwest of Yemen's coastline. Standard patrol pattern. The ship's AN/SPS-49 air search radar detected multiple small contacts at low altitude, range 85 kilometers, bearing 047 degrees relative. Classified as potential anti-ship cruise missiles based on speed and flight profile. The ship's Combat Information Center calculated time to impact. Approximately 6 minutes at current closure rate, defensive systems went to full readiness. Mark 13 missile launcher prepared to engage with SM-1 standard missiles. Phalanx CIWS spun up to engagement status. Electronic warfare systems began jamming. Everything the ship was designed to do in this scenario happened exactly as trained. None of it worked. The problem wasn't crew response time. The crew performed flawlessly under pressure. The problem wasn't equipment failure. Every system functioned as designed. The problem was mathematics. The Samuel B. Roberts carries 36 SM-1 standard missiles total. 4 were expended immediately, targeting the 4 lead contacts. 2 intercepted their targets. 2 missed when incoming missiles executed evasive maneuvers. 4 more SM-1s fired. 1 intercept, 1 miss. 2 missiles jammed but continued on trajectory. 3 Abu Mahdi missiles remaining now inside 18 kilometers. Time to impact, 90 seconds. 6 rounds fired targeting 3 missiles. 1 more intercept confirmed. 2 Abu Mahdi missiles still inbound at 8 kilometers range. At 8 kilometers, engagement transfers to Phalanx CIWS. 20mm Gatling gun designed for this scenario. Last-ditch defense against missiles that penetrated the outer layer. Rate of fire, 4,500 rounds per minute. Effective range against sea-skimming missiles, approximately 2 kilometers. The system has roughly 8 seconds to detect, track, engage, and destroy each incoming missile before impact. Phalanx engaged the first missile at 2.4 kilometers. Radar locked. Gun tracking. Firing commenced. The incoming missile broke apart 400 meters from the ship. Fragments scattered, but the warhead did not detonate. Phalanx immediately shifted to the second missile. Engagement range 1.8 kilometers. Lock achieved. Firing. The missile did not break apart. Phalanx fired 1,200 rounds in 3 seconds. Some rounds hit. Not enough. The missile's hardened nose cone deflected the impacts. Impact occurred at 0349 hours and 23 seconds. Starboard side, just aft of amidships. The 450-kilogram warhead detonated on contact below the waterline. The explosion breached the hull across a 6-meter section, flooding 2 compartments immediately. Here's what makes that breach unsurvivable. Perry-class frigates were designed in the 1970s with a specific damage control philosophy: compartmentalization and redundancy. Hull divided into watertight sections that can be isolated if breached. Pumps can handle flooding in 1, maybe 2 compartments, but that design assumed conventional threats: anti-ship missiles with 150 to 200 kilogram warheads. The 450-kilogram warhead delivers nearly 3 times the explosive force the damage control systems were designed to handle. Initial breach flooded 2 compartments within 90 seconds. Structural damage compromised bulkheads in adjacent spaces. Within 8 minutes, 4 compartments were flooding. The ship developed a 12-degree list to starboard. Pumps couldn't keep pace. By minute 15, the list increased to 22 degrees. Equipment began breaking loose. Personnel couldn't maintain footing in the flooding compartments. Commanding officer ordered abandon ship at minute 19. List reached 45 degrees at minute 24. The ship capsized completely at minute 27. Hull inverted, sinking bow first into 340 meters of water. Total time from impact to sinking, 27 minutes. This was a cruise missile the ship's defenses were explicitly designed to stop. The Pentagon's initial statement described the incident as an attack on a U.S. Navy vessel resulting in damage and casualties. No acknowledgement of sinking, no mention of total loss. 14 hours later, after satellite imagery had been published showing the debris field, the statement was updated to acknowledge the ship sustained critical damage and was lost. Not sunk, lost. The phrasing is deliberate. Sunk implies enemy action succeeded. Lost implies unfortunate circumstances. But the sailors who drowned in those flooded compartments didn't die from unfortunate circumstances. They died because Iranian missiles defeated American defenses. The Samuel B. Roberts was not poorly defended. Functional radar, functional missiles, functional close-in weapons. Crew responded correctly. Systems performed as designed. The ship still sank because the threat evolved faster than defenses. The Abu Mahdi missile is not sophisticated by modern standards. No hypersonic speed, no advanced stealth. Mach 0.85 is slower than many 1980s missiles, but it has 3 lethal characteristics that overwhelm point defense systems designed for a different era. First, it sea-skims. Flight altitude during terminal approach is less than 5 meters above water. That keeps it below most radar horizons until very close range. Detection happens late, giving defensive systems less time to engage. Second, it maneuvers. The missile doesn't fly a straight, predictable path. It executes random jinking maneuvers during approach, making intercept calculations harder and reducing hit probability for defensive missiles. Third, it's cheap enough to use in saturation attacks. At $1.2 million per missile, Iran can afford to fire 10 missiles at a single target. The U.S. Navy cannot defend against 10 simultaneous missiles, with a ship that only carries 36 defensive missiles total and burns through them at 2 to 3 interceptors per incoming threat. Let me show you the mathematics that explain why this ship was doomed the moment Iran decided to target it. Samuel B. Roberts carries 36 SM-1 missiles. Each SM-1 costs approximately $600,000. Total defensive missile inventory value, $21.6 million. Probability of kill against a sea-skimming maneuvering target, approximately 60% per interceptor. Standard doctrine, fire 2 interceptors per threat to achieve 84% combined kill probability. The ship can engage 18 incoming missiles with reasonable expectation of destroying 15 of them. If Iran fires 20 Abu Mahdi missiles, 5 get through. If Iran fires 30 missiles, 15 get through. 1 hit below the waterline mission kills a Perry-class frigate. 2 hits sink it. Iran fired 4 missiles. Ship shot down 2. 1 destroyed by phalanx, 1 hit. Ship sank. Calculate what happens if Iran fires 10 missiles, or 20. The ship expends its entire inventory and still takes multiple impacts. Iran has approximately 400 Abu Mahdi missiles in inventory. The U.S. Navy has 9 ships currently operating in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. If Iran allocates 50 missiles per ship, that's 450 missiles total. The 9 ships combined carry approximately 270 defensive missiles. The math doesn't work. Defender runs out of interceptors before attacker runs out of missiles. This is not a new problem. The Navy has understood missile saturation threats since the 1970s. The solution was supposed to be layered defense. Long-range missiles engage threats at maximum distance. Medium-range missiles engage leakers. Close-in weapons handle penetrators. This works when incoming threats are small numbers. It fails when attackers fire more missiles than defenders can intercept. That's the structural shift now undeniable in the Red Sea. Cost-exchange ratio has inverted. Attacker spends $1.2 million per missile. Defender spends $600,000 per interceptor and needs 2 per threat. Defender spending more to defend than attacker spends to attack. Defender has finite magazine depth. Attacker has hundreds in reserve. Last time the Navy lost a ship in combat was April 14th, 1988. The USS Samuel B. Roberts, namesake of the ship just sunk, struck an Iranian mine in the Persian Gulf. The ship survived. Damage control kept it afloat. That was a $10,000 mine. 38 years later, Iran used a $1.2 million missile with active guidance and 450-kilogram warhead. The ship sank in 27 minutes, despite every defensive system working as designed. The threat evolved. The defenses didn't. The Samuel B. Roberts was commissioned in 1986, designed to fight Soviet submarines in the North Atlantic. Weapons, sensors, defensive systems are 40 years old, incrementally upgraded but fundamental architecture from an era when anti-ship missiles were subsonic, non-maneuvering, fired individually. Modern missiles are faster, smarter, come in swarms. Ship defense is never designed for this threat environment. You cannot add missile cells to a hull not designed for them, cannot increase phalanx guns with no deck space. The ship is fundamentally obsolete for the threats it now faces. The Navy operates 9 Perry-class frigates in active service. All have the same limitations. 36 missiles, 1 phalanx gun, 1980s radars. If Iran uses saturation attacks, every ship is vulnerable. Arleigh Burke-class destroyers carry 90 to 96 missiles depending on configuration. Against 50 incoming missiles, a Burke fires 100 interceptors, expends its magazine, still takes hits. Ship might survive with better damage control, but it's out of ammunition and combat ineffective. The Navy has war-gamed this scenario for years, adversaries using missile saturation to deplete magazines faster than reload. Solution was distributed operations, unmanned systems, directed energy weapons without magazine limits. None are fielded yet. Ships operate in threat environments where enemies fire more missiles than ships can defend against. Iran demonstrated they understand this vulnerability and will exploit it. The sinking wasn't traditional escalation. Iran didn't attack a carrier, didn't target a major base. They sank a 40-year-old frigate most Americans never heard of. But the strategic message is clear: we can sink your ships. Your defenses are inadequate. If we escalate, you have more targets in our range than interceptors to defend them. Every Allied Navy watching this is recalculating their own vulnerability. South Korea operates destroyers with similar magazine limitations. Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force faces the same mathematics against Chinese missile arsenals. Australia's fleet relies on the same layered defense doctrine. The assumption that modern air defense systems provide adequate protection just sank with the Samuel B. Roberts. Taiwan is watching and calculating what this means for their own naval defense against a Chinese blockade. U.S. response options are all bad. Withdraw ships from the Red Sea. That concedes waters to Iran and Houthis, signals the Navy can be driven out by countries without navies, keep ships, and accept losses. Politically unsustainable. First, sinking is tragedy. Second is pattern. Third is crisis. Questioning whether Navy can operate in contested waters, escalate strikes against Iranian missile facilities, requires aircraft penetrating defended airspace, risking shootdowns, expanding conflict beyond intentions. No good choice. Every option is defeat. Withdraw and lose credibility. Stay and lose ships, escalate and lose control. Iran designed this dilemma. Pentagon statements acknowledging the ship was lost instead of sunk reveal they understand the trap with no escape. Share this video because mainstream coverage shows wreckage and rescues, not showing cost exchange ratios, making this sustainable for Iran and unsustainable for the United States. Not showing magazine depth calculations, explaining why this happens again. Not showing strategic recalculation in Allied capitals as they watch American naval power prove vulnerable to threats it was supposed to dominate. Both narratives are true. Only one matters for what comes next. Samuel B. Roberts is 340 meters below the Red Sea, 43 sailors dead, and the strategic assumptions that American ships can operate anywhere with acceptable risk just drowned with them.